The storm had begun as a whisper, soft and distant, barely brushing the glass of the car window as Maya drove along the twisted road that led to the Black Hollow Inn. A faint rumble of thunder rolled across the hills. The trees lining the roadside twisted like skeletal fingers against a roiling gray sky. The GPS signal had cut out 15 minutes ago, and now she relied on printed directions. Her phone battery was on 2%. The inn appeared like a specter through the mist, an ancient, towering Victorian structure nestled deep in the woods, wrapped in creeping ivy and shadows. The lights flickered inside the lobby window like the flicker of a dying candle. Maya parked her car, slammed the door shut, and tightened her coat around her. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back. But she had no choice. She needed to disappear. Black Hollow Inn was the perfect place, secluded, forgotten, and cheap. She was running from something she didn't talk about anymore. Something that clawed at the edge of her dreams. Something that made her leave everything behind. The wooden door creaked open before she knocked. A withered old man stood behind it, eyes milky and sunken, face pale and oddly bruised around the cheeks as if something had gripped him tightly there. Room 313, he rasped before she could speak. Top floor. End of the hall. The only one left. She hesitated. How do you know my name? I didn't say it, he replied, already turning away. She stepped inside. The lobby smelled of mildew and ancient rot. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing sickly green mold underneath. Dust hung thick in the air. She felt watched, like dozens of eyes stared from the cracked portraits hanging along the walls. At the top of the staircase, a long corridor stretched into darkness. The air was colder here. At the very end was room 313. The door looked newer than the rest, fresh wood, new paint. But the number plate was stained with something dark that didn't look like rust. The door opened with a groan. Inside, the room was surprisingly clean. A simple bed, a desk, and a tall mirror on the far wall stood out against the otherwise plain furnishings. The mirror's frame was ornate, black wood carved into twisting shapes of screaming faces, eyes hollow, mouth stretched impossibly wide. Maya felt something wrong in the air. The kind of wrong that coats the tongue and sticks to the back of your throat like ash. She turned the mirror toward the wall. It resisted. She frowned, pressing her shoulder against the frame. With effort, she tilted it, turning it toward the wall until the reflection was hidden. Her chest loosened. Later, as rain lashed the windows, she lay on the bed scrolling old pictures on her phone, her and Elena laughing at the beach, her little brother's graduation, her mother's last birthday. All gone now. As she drifted toward sleep, the whispering began. It started softly, like a breath in her ear. Don't look. She sat up, heart thudding. The room was empty. Don't look. A rasping voice, from the far wall. The mirror had turned itself back around. Maya stared, trembling. Her reflection stared back, but something was off. Her eyes in the reflection were darker. Too dark. Her face twisted in a way her own wasn't. The reflection was smiling, even though Maya wasn't. She grabbed a sheet and threw it over the mirror. It didn't move again that night. In the morning, she tried to complain. The front desk was empty. The old man was gone. A note on the counter read. Room 313 is not to be altered. Do not cover the mirror. Do not move it. Do not look into it. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Who had written that? It wasn't there last night. Back in the room, the sheet had been removed. The mirror stood exactly where it had been originally. Her reflection greeted her with a sickening grin. This time, its head tilted slightly, just a fraction of a second before she moved. It wasn't mimicking her, it was watching her. She backed away. But when she turned to leave the room, the reflection remained a moment longer, watching, before snapping into place as if it had been following her movement all along. That night, she left the lights on. At 2:17 a.m., a scratching sound woke her. Scratch. 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 Not from the door. From inside the mirror. She turned, trembling. Her reflection lay in bed, unmoving. But something behind it moved, dark and tall, slithering across the wall behind the glass like a silhouette trying to claw its way through. Its fingers were elongated, bone-thin, nails scraping against the inside of the glass. A mouth opened behind her reflection, jagged and wide. It whispered. "Look deeper." She screamed and threw a lamp at the mirror. The glass didn't break. It only rippled, like disturbed water. She ran to the hallway. It was pitch black. No lights, no sounds, only a thick, suffocating silence. When she turned around, the door to 313 was gone. The hallway wall was smooth where the door had been. Only the number 313 remained, carved into the wood with deep, jagged cuts that oozed a black, viscous liquid. The next morning, Maya sat in the dining room with a few of the other guests. No one would look her in the eye. A woman across the table whispered, "Did you look into it?" Maya nodded, barely. The woman's face paled. "Don't look again. Once is enough. Twice is death." Another guest, a man in his 60s, leaned closer. "There's a legend," he said. "The inn used to be a sanatorium. Room 313 was where they kept the patients who spoke to mirrors. One of them, Elias Finch, claimed there was something inside the glass that showed you not your reflection, but your true soul. What lives behind your face. It drove them insane. They clawed their own eyes out to stop seeing it." Maya swallowed. "And the mirror in that room, why is it still there?" The man shivered. "It's not a mirror anymore. It's a door." Back in her room, she paced. She had to leave. She packed her things, grabbed her phone, opened the door, and stopped. The hallway stretched infinitely. She turned around. The mirror was uncovered again. Her reflection was missing. The mirror showed the room, but it was empty. And then it began to change. The wallpaper in the reflection curled and blackened. The furniture decayed. Maggots writhed on the bed. The ceiling sagged with mold. Shadows oozed from the corners like blood dripping backward. She watched in frozen horror as herself appeared in the room again, only it wasn't her. Its skin was pale, gray, and stretched tight. Its eyes were completely black, and its mouth had torn at the corners, jagged and too wide. It turned toward her, toward the real Maya, and smiled. Then it stepped forward. The surface of the mirror shivered. Maya screamed and ran from the room, down the endless hallway. Doors warped as she passed. Whispers filled the air, pleading, mocking, some crying, others laughing. She tried every door. All locked. Except one. Room 314. Inside was only a single object. A broken mirror. It had been shattered and taped back together, the cracks forming a spiderweb of darkness. Carved into the wall behind it in deep gouges were the words. "Don't look into the mirror." The door slammed behind her. Outside, the rain poured harder. Back in 313, the mirror stood silent again. The reflection, now wearing Maya's form, smiled and sat on the bed. The real Maya was inside now. Behind the glass, she pounded her fists against the surface, screaming soundlessly, trapped in the twisted, decaying version of the room. And in her place, the thing in her skin blinked once. Then turned, calmly, and picked up her phone. "Hi," it said sweetly, voice just like hers. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just staying at this little inn. Everything's great." It smiled wider. "So much better now." The air behind the mirror was not air at all. It was dense, like sinking into a pool of oil. Maya thrashed, but her limbs moved sluggishly, her screams muffled into silence. Everything was inverted, warped as though viewed through a shattered lens. The room she had once known was twisted, rotted. The ceiling dripped black ichor, the bed was made of wet bone and sinew, and the walls pulsated like living flesh. She stumbled backward and fell onto the floor, which squelched beneath her. Her reflection was gone. She was the reflection now. No. No. This isn't real, she whispered, though her voice echoed strangely, as if coming from underwater. She reached for the glass, slamming her fists against it. Her real room was just on the other side, warm, lit, and normal. But she couldn't break through. She watched as the thing in her body, wearing her face, walked away from the mirror and out the door. It never looked back. Time didn't work properly in this place. Maya wandered the distorted version of room 313 endlessly. The door wouldn't open. The window looked out onto a sky that didn't exist, a swirling void of crimson clouds and black lightning. Sometimes she would hear it, her double, return to the real room. When it did, Maya would see it through the glass, moving with her exact motions, only slightly off. It would whisper things to itself. Laugh in ways she never had. Sometimes it would sit and stare directly at the mirror, her black-eyed twin watching her as if feeding on her despair. She begged for someone, anyone, to look in and see her. To notice the difference. But no one ever did. The worst came at night. That's when they arrived. They didn't walk or crawl. They slithered out from the walls, stretching limbs that weren't limbs, eyes that blinked sideways, mouths that opened too wide, whispering in dozens of voices at once. You looked. Now you belong to us. We see behind your skin. You are a hollow now. They circled her, never touching, just watching. Feeding. Savoring her fear. One of them leaned close, its face nothing but a polished black surface, like a mirror. When Maya looked into it, she didn't see herself. She saw her mother, bloated and pale, eyes torn out, skin sloughing off in strips, crawling toward her and begging, "Why didn't you listen?" Maya screamed until her voice was gone. Days, maybe weeks, passed. She stopped eating. There was no food. No water. And yet, she didn't die. This place didn't let you die. It preserved you. Kept you just conscious enough to suffer. Then one day, the mirror shimmered again. Someone else had entered room 313. It was a girl, early 20s, wide-eyed, nervous. She dropped a suitcase by the bed and froze at the mirror. Maya lunged toward the glass, slamming her fists against it. No. Don't look. Please. I'm in here. Don't. But the girl leaned closer. And as she stared into the glass, Maya saw another figure moving behind her. The mirror twisted again, and Maya watched the girl's reflection begin to change. Her head tilted slowly. Her pupils dilated until her eyes turned completely black. Her mouth curled into a grin far too wide. The girl stumbled back in real life. What the hell? The mirror began to ripple. Maya screamed and beat the glass harder. Run! Get out! It's waking up. Then the mirror convulsed. The surface stretched like skin being peeled, and a hand reached out, long, bony fingers with nails like obsidian knives. It brushed the girl's shoulder. She collapsed instantly, screaming in agony as blood poured from her eyes and ears. Then she went still. And the reflection, her hollow double, stepped out. Another one. The original Maya thing returned a few minutes later. It looked at the new girl's husk, smiled faintly, and whispered, "She looked." Then it bent down and fed. Behind the glass, Maya crumbled. She was not the first. She wouldn't be the last. That night, she was dragged deeper. The mirror's world began to expand. Room 313 vanished behind her like smoke. Now she was in a corridor of mirrors, stretching endlessly in all directions. Each one showed a different version of a room, each with someone inside. Some screamed. Some stared blankly. Some pounded at the glass until their hands broke open. Others were gone, their rooms filled with only blood and bone. A creature stepped into the corridor. It was made of mirrors, shards of jagged glass in the shape of a man. Its face was a fractured reflection of everyone it had consumed. It walked silently, pausing at each mirror, examining the souls trapped behind them. Then it turned to Maya. It didn't speak. It simply raised one mirrored hand and pointed at her. Behind her, she heard the soft slither of dozens of limbs. The others had come again. This time, to feed. In the waking world, the Maya thing thrived. She went shopping. She laughed with neighbors. She smiled at children. But at night, when no one saw, she returned to room 313. And she watched. Waiting. Hoping for someone else to disobey the warning. And look. One evening, she brought a guest to the inn, a young man named Luke she'd met at a bar. She offered him a place to crash. He accepted, charmed by her warmth, her smile, her strange eyes. He never saw the way her smile faltered when he entered the room. He never noticed the mirror watching him. Until it was too late. He took one glance. And Maya's laugh turned into a shriek of delight. Because now, the mirror had two. Back in the corridor, Maya was no longer alone. Luke's scream echoed across the glass. She found him in the mirror next to hers. His hands bloodied. His eyes wide and unblinking. What is this?" he whispered. Maya pressed her hands to the glass between them. "You looked," she said softly. "You shouldn't have looked." He stared at her, realization dawning. "You're the girl from the bar." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "That wasn't you, was it?" he asked. "No. Not anymore." Suddenly, the mirrored corridor shook. The glass rippled. The mirror man stepped forward again. But this time, it spoke. Its voice was all of theirs. Male, female, young, old, all screaming at once. "You are reflections. You are hunger. You are ours." And then it began to shatter the mirrors. One. By one. By one. Maya turned and ran through the corridor, dragging Luke behind her. They darted past twisted reflections, through mirrored rooms of the damned, fleeing the shattering roar behind them. "There's no way out." Luke cried. "Yes, there is." Maya screamed. "One of them always looks. We just have to be ready." "What do you mean?" "We switch. We take their place, before they do." He stared at her, horrified. "You mean, possess them?" She nodded. "It's that, or be devoured." They waited. And eventually, someone came. A woman in her 40s. Curious. Lonely. She entered room 313. Luke went first. As she leaned in to fix her hair, her hand touched the glass. Luke lunged. For a moment, her body convulsed, screamed, and then fell still. Luke emerged, gasping, panting. "I'm out," he whispered, looking at his hands. "I'm out." But Maya couldn't follow. Because her mirror wasn't shimmering. No one was looking. She stood alone, watching Luke's face fade from the glass. And then the mirrored man appeared once more. "You stayed too long." Maya dropped to her knees. And the mirror began to close. Sealing her in. Forever. Maya stood before the sealed mirror, her hands trembling, her face pale and hollowed by hopelessness. Luke was gone. Freed. But she was still here, still inside. And now, even the window to the outside world had vanished. The mirror had gone dark. Smooth as obsidian. No shimmer. No ripple. Just black, cold glass. She was completely cut off. Her scream echoed into the infinite darkness of the mirrored corridor. Something deep inside her snapped. She couldn't remember how long she had been trapped here. Time was a spiral. Moments repeated, shattered, reassembled wrong. Sometimes she found pieces of herself breaking off, memories vanishing like breath on glass. The scent of her mother's perfume. The feel of her brother's hug. Elena's laugh. All fading. In their place came the whispers. They lived in the cracks between mirrors. They called themselves the Hollow Ones. She first saw them after the mirror closed. Shapes in the distance, moving like smoke, like shadows cast by fire. But with faces. Hollow, black-eyed, grinning mouths filled with hundreds of jagged teeth. They didn't speak at first. They only watched. Their heads tilted at impossible angles. Sometimes one of them would step close enough for Maya to see her own face reflected in its chest. But the face wasn't still, it was screaming. Then the feeding began. They didn't eat her body. They fed on her memories. They came at night, if there was night here, sliding from the walls and placing their hands on her head. She would feel something rip from her mind. A sound. A voice. A moment. One by one, the things that made her her were being devoured. Until only the fear remained. She wandered the mirrored halls in search of others. There were hundreds, maybe thousands, of souls trapped like her. Some whispered. Some were catatonic. Others had torn their faces with their nails, trying to erase themselves from the reflection. In one cracked mirror, she saw a man endlessly reliving his death. His throat opening, blood spraying against the glass, over and over again. In another, a child's reflection sobbed and begged to go home while his real self screamed silently behind the glass. None escaped. Not unless someone looked. But the Hollow Ones, they didn't want escape. They wanted replacement. She found her way back to her original mirror eventually, room 313's glass, cold and inert. And when she stood in front of it, it woke up. Just a shimmer. Just a hum. Enough to remind her it was still there. Then a shape appeared on the other side. Not her. It was another guest. A man, mid-40s, maybe. Tired. Drunk. He entered the room and dropped a duffel bag on the bed. His eyes fell on the mirror. And then. The shimmer intensified. He stared. Closer. Closer. No. Maya backed away from the mirror. But the Hollow One surged around her, grabbing her arms, her legs, her throat. They dragged her forward. The glass began to ripple. The reflection mimicked her, but twisted, grinning. The man outside leaned closer. Just a breath away from touching it. And then, he turned away. The mirror stilled. The Hollow Ones screamed in rage. Their distorted faces stretched with fury as they pulled back into the dark. Maya collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Another near escape. And she hadn't been ready. Later, minutes, hours, days, she wandered again. That's when she found the Hall of Forgotten Glass. It was deeper in the mirror realm, where the corridor walls grew thinner and darker. Here, the mirrors weren't reflections of rooms. They were windows into nightmares. Each pane showed a memory distorted. She looked into one and saw herself as a child, playing in a garden. But when she turned away, the child inside didn't stop moving. It stood. And turned. And looked at her. Its eyes were missing. Its mouth opened, revealing infinite blackness. Then it walked toward the mirror. Maya stepped back, heart pounding. Another mirror showed her mother hanging from a ceiling fan, blood dripping upward instead of down, her body twitching in reverse. Another showed a dentist chair. Screaming. Bone saws. Teeth scattered across the floor. She ran. But the mirrors followed. Floating beside her, chasing her down the hall like vultures. Until a door appeared. Carved from black wood, twisted and veined like muscle. No knob. Only a phrase etched into the grain. To become hollow, you must first remember. She touched the wood. It swung open with a wet crack. Inside was a massive chamber filled with mirrors stacked like coffins. Each one cracked. Shattered. Bleeding. And in the center stood a figure. Tall. Gaunt. Skin like thin porcelain barely holding back the darkness underneath. Its face was Maya's. But older. More emptied. Its eyes were endless voids. "You are becoming one of us," it said in her voice. "No," Maya whispered. "It is inevitable. Every day you forget. Every day, we feed. You are hollowing." "I won't let you," she hissed, backing away. The figure stepped closer. "Then remember." With a flick of its hand, the mirrors around her lit up. Every mirror showed a moment Maya had tried to bury. Elena's corpse, cold, still, lips blue. The accident. The blood. The glass. The scream. Her scream. And above it all, the mirror. It had been there that night too. A cracked one, on the wall of the motel bathroom. She'd looked into it just before the crash. Her reflection had smiled. Just for a second. Now she remembered. She had already looked. Long ago. The seed had been planted that night. Room 313 didn't curse her. She'd brought the curse with her. The figure smiled wider. "You were always one of us. You just didn't know yet." "No," she sobbed, covering her ears. "Stop. We don't kill you, Maya. We don't destroy you. We open you. We show you what's beneath." The hollow ones began to slither into the chamber. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All grinning. All chanting. "Don't look. Don't look. Don't look." But Maya did look. Right into the eyes of her reflection. And for the first time, she didn't flinch. "I remember," she whispered. "And I reject you." The mirrors around her cracked. The reflection screamed in rage. The hollow ones surged. But something was different now. Maya's memory had returned. Her pain, her trauma, her truth. And with it came resistance. She turned to the nearest mirror and touched the glass. "I'm done hiding." The glass rippled. And from within, something answered. Another reflection, hers, but whole, reached out and grabbed her hand. For a second, Maya felt herself being pulled outward. But the hollow ones fought back. They swarmed her. Tore at her. Bit into her soul. As the world shattered into screaming black, she slipped through the glass. And woke up. Room 313. Morning light. Her body. Her breath. She was back. The mirror was gone. The room empty. No shadows. No smiles. Just silence. But when she looked in the bathroom mirror, her reflection stared back at her. And blinked 1 second too late. The first thing Maya did after escaping room 313 was throw every mirror in the motel bathroom onto the floor. The clatter of breaking glass echoed around her like a scream. Her heart pounded. Her breath came in gasps. The real world, if this was the real world, felt wrong now. Too bright. Too still. She splashed cold water on her face. But when she looked up, just for a second, there was a glint in the broken shards below. Her reflection grinned. Too wide. And then it was gone. Maya fled Black Hollow in before the sun fully rose, stuffing her things into her bag without folding anything. She didn't stop to talk to the desk clerk, if there was one. She didn't look at the building as she drove off. She didn't look in the rearview mirror. Not even once. She kept her eyes on the road, even when the shadows in the trees seemed to move. Even when she heard a voice in the back seat whisper. Don't look. Don't blink. Don't breathe. She clenched her fists on the wheel. Get out of my head, she whispered. But the voice didn't listen. She drove for hours before finding a cheap roadside diner. The sun was just beginning to rise, a pale orb behind streaks of storm clouds. The parking lot was empty. Inside, the diner felt almost comforting. Linoleum floors. Coffee smell. A waitress with dead eyes and a name tag that said Peggy. Maya sat in the farthest booth, her back to the mirrored wall. The waitress poured her coffee. Rough morning, she asked. Maya nodded without speaking. Peggy smiled too long. Too tight. Her eyes didn't move with her mouth. Mirrors'll do that, she said. Maya froze. Excuse me. Peggy leaned down. Her smile faded. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Don't look over your shoulder. Maya's blood turned to ice. Peggy straightened. You want eggs with that? Maya shook her head. She didn't want anything anymore. Just to be left alone. But the mirror behind her pulsed with cold energy. And in the corner of her vision, she saw movement. She left the diner before finishing her coffee. She didn't make it 3 steps before vomiting onto the pavement. Something was wrong with her body. Her skin felt thin. Her arms weren't bending the way they should. Her vision would blur for seconds at a time, then snap back into razor clarity. She felt like her eyes weren't hers anymore. Worse, when she looked into the puddle near the curb. Her reflection blinked before she did. She stumbled back. She hadn't escaped. She had only switched places. That night, she booked a motel under a false name. No mirrors. She checked the walls. The ceiling. The windows. Everything that might hold a reflection. Still, she heard them. The hollow ones. They whispered in the air vents. In the faucet drips. In the rustle of sheets. One night, she dared to whisper back. What do you want? They answered. You looked. You let us in. Now we wear your face. And soon, your soul. Maya's dreams became infestations. She was back in the mirror world, but this time the walls bled light instead of shadow. Her body fell apart and stitched itself back together with strands of black hair. She saw reflections of herself being born in other rooms, over and over again, each one more corrupted, each one less her. And in the dream, she walked past a hospital door labeled 313. Inside, her mother sat, head split down the center, speaking in reverse. Maya tried to scream, but her mouth had been sewn shut. She woke with blood on her pillow. It wasn't hers. By the 3rd night, she was unraveling. She couldn't remember her own birthday. Her face in the mirror would change slightly each time she caught it, lips fuller, nose thinner, eyes too deep. She called Luke. His phone went straight to voicemail. She tried again. This time, someone picked up. A deep, raspy breath answered. Then. We got out. You didn't. The line went dead. Panicking, she checked her motel bathroom. The mirror was small, cracked, but still there. She took a marker and scrawled across it. "Who am I?" Her reflection didn't copy it. It only smiled. Then reached up, as if touching her side of the glass. And drew something else in blood-red letters. "You are not." Maya screamed and threw a towel over the mirror. But it laughed beneath it. A hollow, echoing laugh like wind howling through a crypt. The next morning, she found writing scratched into the wall above her bed. Long, thin scratches, like nails or claws. Mirrors show more than skin. Wear her. Become her. Erase her. One must stay. One must starve. Maya ran. She drove until the gas tank hit empty. Ended up in a ghost town, a single gas station, a boarded-up church, a sagging motel with no vacancy, glowing despite every room being dark. The air was thick. Heavy. Too still. As if the world had been paused. She entered the gas station, the bell above the door ringing flat and slow. The clerk didn't look up from behind the counter. A TV in the corner flickered static. On screen. Her face. But warped. Mouth moving too fast. Eyes jerking. She turned it off. The clerk spoke without moving his mouth. "She's inside you now." Maya backed away. "What?" "The one you left behind," he said, slowly raising his head. His eyes were completely black. "You didn't escape. You just traded places." She ran from the store, the clerk laughing behind her, the bell ringing in reverse. That night, she finally looked again. She couldn't take it anymore. The not knowing. The fragments. The fear. She took the cloth off the mirror. And stared. Her reflection stared back. It looked exactly like her. But it was standing still. She leaned in. And it whispered. "You're the reflection now." Her hands touched the glass. It was no longer solid. It rippled. And she began to fall forward. She crashed into darkness. Room 313 again. Only this time, it was completely decayed. The walls bled. The bed pulsed. The air was thick with rot. And behind her stood dozens of herself, each at a different point in time. One was a child. One was her teenage self. One was the reflection. The corrupted version. It stepped forward, grinning. "You came back," it said. "You never left. You only delayed." Maya shook her head. "No. I was out. I was me again. You were never out. We just let you believe. Hope is a sweeter meal than fear." The walls cracked. The room began to collapse inward. And the mirror, shattered. Now, there was only the abyss. The black space behind mirrors. The place where the hollow ones were born. They circled Maya, chanting. "Trade. Trade. Trade." A new reflection formed in the blackness. Not Maya. Someone else. A girl, maybe 20. Unpacking her bag in room 313. The cycle was ready. The door was open. But this time, Maya didn't fight. She stepped forward. She took the girl's face. And entered. The girl screamed once, then collapsed. And Maya stood, fully whole again. But something in her eyes was darker now. Deeper. Hollow. Maya woke up in a room that wasn't hers, but it felt eerily familiar. The wallpaper was pale blue, stained at the edges. The bed creaked beneath her like a sigh. The morning light poured in through a cracked window, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like lost souls. She sat up slowly, feeling her bones shift in a way they hadn't before, like they were newly formed, like they belonged to someone else. She looked around. The mirror was gone. No sign of the hotel. No Black Hollow Inn. No room 313. Just a quaint bedroom in what looked like a small farmhouse. The smell of pine. The soft echo of birdsong. And silence. Too much silence. Downstairs, a man and woman greeted her with relieved smiles. "You're awake," the woman said. "You gave us quite the scare. We found you unconscious near the old mill 3 days ago. You kept murmuring, something about a mirror." The man rubbed the back of his neck. "You don't remember anything?" Maya shook her head slowly, lying. "No. Just fragments." "Well, don't you worry," the woman said gently. "You're safe now." Safe. That word meant nothing anymore. Maya smiled weakly. But her eyes searched for glass. Over the next few days, she settled into the couple's home. Emily and Grant, they said. A kind-hearted pair in their late 50s who had lived in the farmhouse all their lives. No TV. No phone. No internet. "We like the quiet," Emily explained. "It's peaceful out here." Maya didn't argue. There were no mirrors in the house. Not a single one. Even the water in the sinks had an odd cloudiness to it, impossible to see her reflection. At night, she heard the floorboards groan as if something heavy walked the halls. But no one ever came. And in her dreams, the mirrors returned. Cracking. Calling. Crawling open like wombs made of glass. On the 4th night, Maya followed the sound. Soft, rhythmic humming. Like a lullaby. It came from the attic. She climbed the narrow wooden stairs barefoot, each creak underfoot like a gasp. At the top, the door stood open. Inside, darkness. But the humming continued. She stepped forward. In the center of the attic was a cradle. Black. Shining. Made entirely of mirror shards. The lullaby stopped. Maya stood frozen. Inside the cradle, was herself. A baby version of her, eyes wide, mouth gaping open in a silent cry, reflected 1,000 times over. She took a step closer. The baby blinked once. And grinned. Suddenly, glass erupted upward from the cradle like a flower blooming in reverse. Shards floated midair, spinning, humming. And then, a voice behind her. "We are born again." Maya turned. Emily and Grant stood in the doorway, their faces blank, their eyes mirror-surfaced. Grant opened his mouth, inside was a swirling void of reflections. Emily stepped closer. "You never escaped, Maya." "Grant, this is the cradle. The place where hollows hatch." "Emily, you're not a guest anymore." "Grant. You're a mother. Now." Maya screamed and backed into the mirror cradle, cutting her arms on the glass. The reflected baby stood up, impossible for an infant, and said, in a voice identical to Maya's. "Feed me your face." She awoke back in the bed, soaked in blood. But there were no wounds. No cradle. No Emily. No Grant. She was alone. The entire house was empty. Every window bricked over. Every door locked from the outside. Only one thing remained in the house now. A full-length mirror in the hallway. Black-framed. Carved with thousands of teeth. Maya didn't approach it at first. But the house forced her. Doors vanished. Hallways curved. Rooms disappeared behind her. Until only the mirror remained. Its surface rippled with anticipation. Behind it, she saw a version of the house, identical, but twisted. The walls bled light. The floor pulsed like flesh. Her reflection stood in that world, watching her. It was holding the baby. Its mouth stretched open as it slowly ate it. Not with teeth, but by absorbing it. The baby dissolved into the reflection's body like water soaking into fabric. When it finished, the reflection grinned, wider than should be possible, and tapped the glass. Maya felt her chest tear open. Something inside her wanted to join it. To step through. To let go. To become mother of mirrors. But she clenched her fists. No. She looked into her reflection's black eyes and whispered, "I remember now." The reflection tilted its head. "I remember the first time I looked. I remember the glass. I remember what you are." The walls around her began to crack. The house groaned. The mirror screamed. "I remember Elena. I remember what you did to her." The mirror shattered. But behind it was not escape. It was the mirror world again. This time, she didn't fall in. She stepped in. She was no longer running. She was no longer hiding. She walked into the corridor of mirrors, head high, spine straight, eyes blazing. The hollow ones hissed and recoiled. She passed the mirror cradle again, empty now. No baby. No birth. Only shards. She reached the heart of the reflection world. A throne made of 1,000,000 faces. All of them hers. Some crying. Some laughing. Some burning. Some mutilated. She climbed the steps. And sat. The corridor fell silent. The hollow ones crawled forward and knelt. One raised its twisted head and whispered. "You remember." "Yes," she said. "You are complete." "I am." "You are hollow." "No," Maya said. "I am whole." The faces on the throne screamed. But Maya only smiled. From behind the darkness, the original emerged. The first hollow. The mother of reflections. A towering creature made of glass and bone, with Maya's face stretched over its skull like a mask. It hissed. "You broke the cycle." Maya stood. "No," she said. "I became the cycle." And then, she shattered the throne. The explosion tore through the mirror world. Glass rained. The hollow ones burned in beams of light. The original screamed, its face cracking, its form unraveling. Maya tore open her chest and reached inside. From her heart, she pulled the baby, the last piece of her innocence. And offered it to the light. The world exploded in silence. She woke in her car. Parked on a roadside near a cliff. The morning sun was rising. In the rearview mirror, her reflection smiled. And this time. So did she. But far behind her, in a broken room that no longer exists. A piece of glass twitched. And a baby cried. Maya didn't know how many days had passed since she woke in the car near the cliff. Her clothes were stiff with dried blood and mirror dust. Her hands trembled when she touched her face, half expecting it to peel away. But the world around her remained solid. No more rippling reflections. No more voices. No more hollow ones. She was free. Wasn't she? That thought lingered. Every shadow felt like it was watching. Every puddle whispered. Every window reflected her, but not quite her. And still, she couldn't bring herself to look. She wandered until she found a town, normal, bright, full of people who smiled with full faces and eyes that didn't hide black pits. She rented a small room above a bookstore. Room 7, the clerk said with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Top floor. You'll like it. Quiet up there. Just don't mind the... He stopped. The what? Maya asked, tightening her grip on the room key. The clerk looked out the window. The mirror. It stuck to the wall. A lot of guests asked to take it down. It won't move. Not even maintenance can budge it. Maya's throat went dry. Room 7 looked innocent at first glance. White walls. A twin bed. A bookshelf filled with old paperbacks. A cracked window with a view of the sleepy main street. And the mirror. It was tall, narrow, bolted into the wall facing the bed. A frame of bone whitewood carved with dozens of watching eyes. Some open, some closed, some bleeding. The surface wasn't normal glass. It pulsed slightly, as if it were breathing. Maya didn't unpack. She didn't sit. She just stood in front of the mirror, her pulse hammering in her ears. This wasn't just any mirror. This was one of them. One of the rooms that see. The hollow ones had whispered about them, once. Before she shattered the throne. Rooms that watch. Rooms that remember. Rooms that never stop seeing. No matter what she had done. No matter what she had become. She was still seen. And that meant she wasn't free. Not yet. That night, she slept with the lights on and her back to the mirror. But dreams bled through anyway. She was a child again, standing in her childhood home's hallway. Mirrors on either side. Each showed a different version of her, some with twisted mouths, some with missing eyes, some not human at all. One reached out of the glass and touched her hand. And whispered, in her own voice. "We know what you did in the cradle." She woke to soft laughter. Not outside. Inside the mirror. Maya turned. Her reflection sat cross-legged on the bed. Her real body lay frozen under the sheets, eyes wide, unable to move. The reflection leaned forward. "I saw you kill her," it said sweetly. "The original. The throne. But you forgot something." It crawled closer on the other side of the glass. "You forgot what comes after a mother dies." Maya's limbs wouldn't respond. Sleep paralysis. But her eyes widened in horror. "Children," the reflection giggled. And then the mirror began to crack. From the inside. The next day, Maya tried to leave the town. Her car wouldn't start. No bus lines. No working phones. No one seemed to notice her anymore. The people on the street walked past like she wasn't there. The bookstore clerk had vanished. The streets were quiet. Too quiet. And back in room 7, the mirror now followed her with its reflection, even when she moved. She covered it with a blanket. The blanket burst into flies. She screamed and ran downstairs. The hallway had changed. No longer modern. Now it was old, rotted, like the halls of Black Hollow Inn. Room numbers were scratched out. Walls whispered. And every door she opened led back to room 7. That night, she found something new in the room. A journal on the floor. Bound in pale leather. Pages yellowed and soft. On the cover. The Book of Seen Things. Inside, each page was a drawing. Of her. Sleeping. Sitting. Crying. Fighting in the mirror world. Every moment of her life. Drawn with disturbing detail. From every angle. As if she were always being watched. She flipped to the final page. It was blank. Until she blinked. Then a new image appeared. Her face, horrified. Screaming. And behind her, in the mirror. A dozen small children. Pale. Black-eyed. Smiling. She turned slowly. The mirror now reflected something impossible. The room was empty. But in the mirror. 12 children stood behind her, all in matching white nightgowns. Each one wore her face. Sewn lips. Bleeding eyes. They spoke in unison. "We are the orphaned reflections. You killed our mother. You made room for us. We want to be born. The mirror split open down the center. Like a mouth. Maya tried to run. But her body felt heavy. Glued to the floor. The children crawled through the mirror. Slow. Wet. Glitching, like corrupted video. They reached for her. Not to harm her. But to climb into her. They melted into her skin. One after another. Sinking through her pores. Clawing down her throat. Tearing her open from the inside without breaking her surface. She felt full. Swollen. Not with life. With them. She dropped to the floor, convulsing. As she gasped, she saw herself in the mirror. Still standing. Still watching. Now smiling proudly. "You're the new cradle now," the reflection said. "They will grow inside you. They will see through you. They will use you. They will be born through your eyes." Maya coughed up glass. By morning, the mirror was gone again. The room clean. Her body intact. But when she blinked, her eyes reflected too much light. And she could hear them. Inside her skull. Whispering. Waiting. Watching. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. And in the reflection. Her stomach pulsed. Something inside it moved. Smiled. And tapped. Maya didn't sleep anymore. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them, the orphaned reflections, crawling through her veins, slithering behind her eyeballs, feeding on her memories like parasites. She no longer cried. Tears had turned to thin slivers of glass. When she touched them, they cut her fingertips. She didn't bleed red. She bled mirror dust. The town no longer looked the same. Street signs faded when she walked past. People didn't look her in the eye anymore, not because they were avoiding her, but because they couldn't see her at all. Her reflection, however, appeared in every mirror, every shop window, every pool of standing water, but never did what she did. It moved independently. Sometimes it mimicked her hours later. Sometimes it stood still while she walked. And sometimes, it turned its head slowly, as if listening to the whispers inside her body. On the seventh day, the sky fractured. Not metaphorically. A literal crack stretched across the heavens like a split windshield. Through it, she could see the mirror realm bleeding through, jagged fragments of other rooms, other versions of herself, looping endlessly. In one, she was trapped in a straitjacket, screaming. In another, she was skinless, cradling the mirror baby. In yet another, she was a child, staring up at her adult self with hollow black eyes. Every version of her. Trapped. Twisting. Warping. The air itself shimmered as the veil between the worlds broke apart. Maya tried to leave town. Her feet sank into the road. Literally. The asphalt grew soft, like tar, like flesh. Every step pulled her deeper. Reflections appeared in puddles, on license plates, even in strangers' eyes. And all of them whispered the same phrase. "You are the doorway now." That night, she stood in front of the last mirror in her room. She had boarded it up, painted it over, shattered it, only for it to heal again, like skin. Now, she didn't fight it. She stared. The glass rippled once. Her reflection stepped out. Fully. Completely. It looked identical to her, but clean. Pristine. Smiling. Pregnant. The belly twitched. Maya backed away, but the reflection held up a hand. "I am what you were supposed to become," it said. "No," Maya whispered. "You're what I rejected." The reflection touched her face gently. "You gave birth to us when you shattered the throne. You made a home in your soul for all the discarded reflections. Now they're ready. And the world is softening. Outside, the sky wept glass rain. Screams echoed from the clouds. Maya looked down. Her hands were no longer skin. They were silver. Smooth. Cold. Reflective. The mirror pulsed behind the reflection, widening into a great dark womb of screaming shards. From within it crawled the children. Not the giggling, pale creatures from before. Now, they were grown. Twisted bodies. Limbs bent wrong. Dozens of mirrored eyes blinking across their chests. Backs, arms. Their mouths stitched with human teeth. Voices like broken violins. They surrounded Maya. They called her mother. One reached out and took her hand. "Don't be afraid," it rasped. "We will take you back. Where you belong." Another pressed its face to her stomach and whispered, "You are the first of us born human. But now you ascend." Maya screamed and tried to run. The floor became mirror. Her feet slid beneath its surface. She fell. Down through glass, through time, through every version of herself screaming in infinite agony. Down past Elena's corpse, past the broken cradle, past the mirror man with his 1,000 faces. Down into the heart of the mirror world. The origin. There, she saw it. The first mirror. It was not made of glass. It was made of eyes. Millions of them. All blinking. All watching. And from its center emerged the architect, a thing older than form, older than light. It spoke in her voice, and in Elena's, and in the voice of every person she had ever loved. "You looked," it said. "You broke the glass. You birthed the hollow. You became the seed. Now, Mother, give us the world." Maya dropped to her knees. Her chest opened, literally, splitting like a flower of flesh and mirror. The children crawled inside. One by one. Her mouth opened wide, wider, too wide. Her reflection stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. Together, they screamed. And the world cracked. Back on Earth, every mirror turned black. Then, alive. Reflections no longer copied movements. They acted. Stepped out. Killed. Replaced. Room by room. Face by face. Humanity fell, not with blood, but with smiles too wide and eyes that blinked wrong. By dawn, the mirror realm and the waking world were no longer separate. They had become one. Every surface reflected Mother. And she smiled. Because Maya was gone. Her body now held thousands of voices. Thousands of minds. And one purpose. To make sure no one ever looked away again. They scratched warnings into every surface they passed. Don't look into the mirror. If you see yourself smile. Run. She sees you now. But it was too late. Because now. When you look into the mirror. You see something behind you. Smiling. And waiting. And whispering. Mother is near. The bathroom light flickered as Jamie stared into the mirror. She'd been hearing things all week. Voices when she brushed her teeth. Movement behind her in still rooms. And always, the feeling that her reflection was just a half-second out of sync. She thought she was just tired. Finals, no sleep, stress. Then she found the booklet. Taped beneath the sink in her dorm's shared bathroom. Its cover was dusty, made of something that felt like soft plastic, or skin. No title. Just a symbol scratched into the surface. A mirror, cracking from the inside out. She opened it. The first page read. To the one who sees. You've already looked. It's too late now. But you can still stop what comes next. Her hands trembled. The second page had a drawing of a woman, twisted in pain, flesh splitting, her eyes like shards of mirror. Dozens of smaller versions of her crawling out of her. Maya. At the bottom of the page. Do not answer your reflection if it speaks. Jamie slammed the book shut. When she looked up, her reflection hadn't moved. Still. Watching. Smiling. She stumbled back from the sink, heart hammering. But the smile in the mirror grew. Her reflection raised a hand slowly, Jamie's own arm still at her side. Then it tapped the glass. Crack. A hairline fracture appeared across the mirror. Just one. A warning. Jamie backed toward the door, never taking her eyes off it. And that's when her reflection finally whispered. You looked. Across the country, in every school, motel, hospital, and home. Mirrors rippled. And cracked. A second fracture. Then a third. A slow spread of something that can't be unseen. It's not about superstition anymore. Or horror stories. Or warnings carved into bathroom stalls. It's real. Because you've looked, too. And now, as you walk past the mirror next. Check closely. Your reflection might not be yours. Not anymore. And if it ever smiles before you do. Run. The end, for real. Skull, you were warned. Skull.